Sports push human limits, but sometimes the line between glory and tragedy disappears in a heartbeat. These true stories reveal how tiny mistakes, hidden dangers, and overlooked safety costs athletes their lives and changed their sports forever. It was March 29th, 2008 in Zadar, Croatia. Hrvoje Kustić, a 24-year-old winger for NK Zadar, was living his dream, playing in front of his home fans. The stadium was electric, the crowd full of pride for their local hero. No one could have guessed how that day would end. Hrvoje had grown up in Zadar, joining his hometown club in 2000. His talent carried him to NK Zagreb in 2005, but the pull of home brought him back 2 years later. Fast, fearless, and determined, he was a fan favourite. That day, as the match against HNK Sabalia began, everything seemed routine. Just minutes into the game, he sprinted after a loose ball near the sideline, locked in a battle with an opposing player. Both men lunged, focused entirely on possession. Hrvoje's momentum carried him off the field, straight into a concrete wall, barely 6 feet beyond the touchline. The impact was horrific. The crowd fell silent as he crumpled to the ground. Medics rushed in, and players looked away in disbelief. He was rushed to hospital for emergency brain surgery. For 5 long days, the entire city waited, praying for a miracle. He briefly stabilized, then worsened. On April 3rd, 2008, Hrvoje Kustić died from complications caused by his head injury. Croatia mourned. All league matches were postponed that weekend. Over 10,000 people attended his funeral, teammates carrying his casket through the streets of Zadar. His death forced the sport to confront a truth it had ignored. Many stadiums were death traps waiting to happen. That concrete wall should never have been there. In the years that followed, stadium safety standards improved across Europe. His memory lived on, most powerfully in 2018, when Croatian goalkeeper Danijel Subasic, his former teammate, lifted his jersey after a World Cup win to reveal a shirt with Hrvoje's face. FIFA fined Subasic, but he didn't care. Tears in his eyes, he said everything without words. Even a decade later, the loss still hurts. June 26th, 2003, Lyon, France. The FIFA Confederations Cup semi-final between Cameroon and Colombia was nearing its end. Cameroon led 1-0, and the crowd pulsed with energy. In midfield stood Marc-Vivien Foe, 28, a towering presence and the heart of the team. He was a hero in Africa, a veteran of West Ham, Manchester City, and Lyon. His teammates called him Marco. He was strong, kind, and always laughing. With 72 minutes played, the cameras caught a sight that would never be forgotten. Marco was jogging near midfield when, without warning, he collapsed. No contact, no reason. The stadium froze. Medics sprinted onto the pitch, fighting to save him. They performed CPR for 45 minutes, both on the field and in the tunnel. It wasn't enough. In the locker room, Captain Rigobert Song delivered the news. Marco was gone. Players broke down. Their coach wept as he faced Marco's mother and wife. The autopsy revealed hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a heart condition that thickens the muscle walls, often without symptoms. The risk of sudden death during exertion was high, but detection was rare. Before his death, Foe had been building a youth academy in Yaoundé, his hometown. He wanted to help young players achieve what he had. Instead, the site became his resting place. The tragedy changed football forever. FIFA introduced stricter medical checks and mandatory cardiac screenings. Manchester City retired his number 23 jersey. Lyon named a street after him. During the Confederations Cup final, French players wept alongside their Cameroonian opponents. To this day, a Foe statue stands outside his unfinished academy. His nephew tends the grave weekly, keeping the site alive even as the academy decays around it. Mark Vivian Foe's death taught the football world that even the strongest heart can hide silent danger, and that safety must never depend on luck. It was May 11th, 1986, in Marseille, France. The arena was packed, the lights bright, and the tension high. Spectators had gathered to watch the World Fencing Classic semi-finals. On the strip stood Nikolai Dragunov, a 28-year-old fencing prodigy from Bolivia. He wasn't just another competitor, he was a legend in the making. Known for his calm, mechanical precision, Nikolai dominated matches with icy focus and perfect form. His 21-match winning streak made him untouchable, a man who seemed to have solved fencing like a mathematical equation. Born in northern Bolivia to a retired military father and a factory worker mother, Nikolai grew up in a house of discipline and order. Fencing became his perfect outlet, a dance of structure and control that mirrored his upbringing. Every movement he made, each thrust, parry, and retreat, was exact, almost machine-like. By 1986, he was Bolivia's national champion, his country's pride. But that morning, a tiny flaw appeared in his armor, a small crack in the corner of his visor. It seemed insignificant. Nikolai noticed it, hesitated, and decided to ignore it. He believed his precision could overcome anything. His opponent that day was a young, fiery Italian fencer, known for unpredictable, reckless attacks. As the match began, Nikolai quickly took control, scoring early points with cold efficiency. But in the fourth exchange, the match took a horrific turn. The Italian lunged too far, his blade striking with a violent clang against Nikolai's. The brittle metal snapped with a shriek. A jagged fragment spun upward, slicing through the air and finding the crack in Nikolai's visor. The shard punched through the mask and into his forehead. He fell instantly. The arena went silent. Medical staff ran to his side, pulling off his mask as blood trickled down his face. His breathing was faint, his eyes unresponsive. Paramedics rushed him to a nearby hospital, where surgeons battled to relieve pressure in his skull. The diagnosis was devastating: penetrating brain trauma with severe internal bleeding. For 4 days, the fencing world held its breath. On May 15th, 1986, Nikolai Dragunov was pronounced dead. There were no grand memorials. The governing bodies never took public blame, but the sport quietly changed. Stronger visors appeared, brittle alloys were banned, equipment checks became strict. Everyone adjusted, silently acknowledging the lesson they had learned the hardest way. At his old training hall, his locker remained closed. No tribute, no ceremony. Just quiet respect and a haunting reminder of what could be lost in a moment of arrogance or oversight. March 31st, 2007, Bangkok Arena. Sweat, smoke, and shouts filled the air. Under the bright lights stood Lito Cisnorio, a 24-year-old Filipino boxer. His hands were rough, his dreams heavy. He'd grown up in poverty, fighting not for glory, but survival. Sometimes he went hungry just to afford training. His record wasn't perfect. 14 wins, 10 losses, 1 draw, but he had heart. That heart brought him to Thailand, where fights were more dangerous but better paying. His opponent, Chachai Sasakul, was a former world champion with 37 wins and only 3 losses. It was a clear mismatch. The Philippines boxing board didn't even fully sanction the fight, but Lito needed the money. The venue was barely professional. Few medical staff, no brain scans, no neurologist, just men fighting for a paycheck. The first round was tense, but clean. Chachai's punches were sharp. Lito's were wide and wild. By round 3, Lito was bleeding, tired, and taking damage, yet he kept swinging. In the 4th round, Chachai landed a vicious combination. Jab, hook, straight right. Lito staggered. Then another right slammed into his temple. He fell face first, limp. The referee waved it off instantly. He never regained consciousness. In hospital, doctors found massive brain bleeding. Surgery couldn't save him. Lito Cisnorio was pronounced dead April 1st, 2007. The news hit the Philippines like a thunderclap. The Games and Amusements Board had not authorized his fight. Officials were furious. Within days, they banned Filipino boxers from competing abroad without strict oversight. Lito's story exposed boxing's dark side, where desperate fighters risk their lives in unsafe, unsanctioned bouts for a few $100s. His death became a warning to all who thought the heart alone could beat a broken system. October 23rd, 2010. Fujairah, United Arab Emirates. The sun blazed over the Persian Gulf as elite swimmers dove in for the FINA Open Water 10 km World Cup. Among them was Fran Crippen, 26, one of America's top open water swimmers. Fran came from a family of champions. His sister Maddie swam in the 2000 Olympics. At the University of Virginia, he was an 11-time All-American. By 2010, he was the face of US open water swimming, a world bronze medalist aiming for the 2012 Olympics. Conditions were brutal that day. The air reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The water temperature hovered near 90 degrees Fahrenheit. As the race wore on, swimmers began to struggle. Several showed signs of heat stress. American swimmer Christine Jennings had to be pulled out and hospitalized. Still, officials didn't stop the race. 2/3 through, Fran told his coach he didn't feel well, but he kept going. When the race ended, he didn't surface. Panic spread. His teammate Alex Meyer raised the alarm, diving back in to search. The rescue response was chaotic. No lifeguards, no safety boats, no system. 2 hours later, divers found Fran's body 400 meters from the finish line, 30 feet below the surface. Autopsy revealed heat exhaustion and drowning. Investigations blamed the organizers for failing to provide adequate safety measures. Coaches and athletes condemned FINA for allowing races in such extreme conditions without proper oversight. Fran's death sparked immediate reform. FINA introduced temperature limits, mandatory safety boats, and GPS tracking for all swimmers. His family founded the Fran Crippen Elevation Foundation to promote athlete safety and support young competitors. Fran's story remains a painful reminder that passion without protection can turn deadly. He died chasing his dream, but his legacy reshaped a sport. Every safeguard in open water swimming today exists because of him. These stories remind us that sports demand courage, but safety demands action. Honor these athletes by learning from their loss. Speak up, check twice, and protect every competitor before it's too late.